Welcome to the Three Inning Fan Show with me, Kelley Franco. I am so excited about my guest here today because I have with me Jayson Stark, who's been around baseball for decades, but he currently writes for The Athletic, and he is one of the great baseball storytellers of our time. Jayson, welcome to the show.
Kelley, it's great to be here. You're too kind, but thank you. Thanks for the kind words.
So, Jayson, your columns are informative, but they also happen to be hilarious. So, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, did there come a point where you chose between stand-up comedy and journalism?
No, I am never going to choose stand-up comedy, but I always felt like you're allowed to have fun writing about baseball. And it's funny. My mom used to say, I never knew these guys were funny till I read your column. Right? So the first thing I ask when I walk into any locker room of any team is, who's the funniest guy in the room? And then go talk to that guy because that's where the good material comes from. I was talking to Jason Benetti about this on the Starkville that we just recorded because that's a thing that he does. He feels like you're allowed to go places that nobody else goes because why the heck not? And so I was curious where that came from with him because for me, it came from growing up reading the great sports writers of Philadelphia, and they were hilarious. They could turn just a story about some random game into laugh out loud funny. And so that's the experience that I had reading about sports. And it's one of the reasons that I wanted to be a sports writer is you get so much more freedom to write and do that stuff than you would writing about the Supreme Court. I covered school boards and zoning boards and all that stuff. This is way more fun.
Do the players see the humor in what you write?
Some of them, I'm not going to say that none of them have ever gotten mad about it, but again, I'm trying to cultivate the funny ones. And I just had lifelong relationships with people like Doug Glanville. He was my Starkville podcast partner because, he was in college at Penn. He was reading me. Then he became a major league player. Then he came to the Phillies. I was working in Philadelphia and we just connected right away. And I realized here's a guy, I could ask him anything. It could be funny. It could be serious. It could be somewhere way out there in the universe. And he will give me an answer that I don't expect. He's the only player I ever remember standing in his locker using phrases like time, space, continuum. So, okay, let's do that. Did you know, Kelley, that, see, this can pay off for the players too. Doug Glanville once met Tyra Banks because of me. They even had kind of a quasi date, and it's all my fault. So
Uh-oh.
this is
Didn't
how
work
this
out well?
happened. Wade Boggs got his 3,000th hit. And what was the 3,000th hit? He hit a home run. And when he got to home plate, maybe you remember this, he bent down and he kissed home plate. And so I went around asking players, what would have to happen for you to kiss home plate? And Doug Glanville said, well, maybe if Tyra Banks' picture was on it, I might. Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah, that'll do
this
it.
this quote went viral. It appeared in the LA Times. I'm not sure if she saw it or if her agent saw it or somebody that she knew saw it. The next thing Doug knew, he got a package in the mail from Tyra Banks, and it was a home plate with her photo on it.
I love
And
it. What a
right,
beautiful sense of
I
humor she
know
has.
that exactly. So the inscription that she wrote was something like, "Now you don't have to wait." Or
That
something
is
like that.
great.
And so they began this correspondence and even had, I don't know if it was an actual date or a quasi date, but they're definitely friends. And so it's just more proof of a better life through laughing, right?
Yeah, well, a better life through Jayson Stark. I think I'm waiting for something good. As soon as this show ends, something good is going to happen to me. I just
There
know
you
it.
go. Let's go for that.
So, Jason, are we having fun in baseball? Is baseball good right now? Is it better than it was 10 years ago?
This seems like it's a trick question. I mean, baseball's always great and it's always fun. And we have great players in the sport. We have amazing pitchers in the sport. It's fun to watch those guys pitch. I don't know that it's that much fun to hit right now. And maybe that's what you're getting at, but the sport's in a good place, I think. Could it be better? I have some thoughts, but what are you really asking me?
Well, I just read your column on the 40 game mark, and you
Uh-huh.
talked about ABS, which, for all our listeners, in case you don't know, it's the automatic balls and strike system that the robots call the balls and strikes on appealed calls. And, you kind of laid it out there that ABS isn't just calling balls and strikes, it's actually changing the game a little bit.
Yeah, let me first say that ABS would be way more entertaining if actual robots were on the field standing
Right? Like
behind the
R2D2?
that would work.
Wouldn't that be
Have
awesome?
have that robot standing right next to the umpire, right behind the umpire, whatever works.
Uh-huh. Or
And
like one of the
actually,
Jetsons from that Jetsons made, like with their vacuum.
this all works for me. Okay. I don't think it works for Rob Manfred, but if you want to make baseball fun, we could do this. So anyway, that's not what actually happens, as you know. And even though it's interesting that we're only working on a challenge system, so it's not like every pitch is being called by these robots or by ABS, only when you tap your head. And it's only a few times a game. It's really having an impact because it's robotizing everybody. It's robotizing umpires and it's robotizing hitters. They're all adjusting to the new strike zone. And the strike zone it's not as large. It's the average strike zone is now 3 inches shorter, almost all of it from the top, which used to be here and now is down like around your belly button. And the hitters are catching on and the umpires are catching on. So what I wrote about was how unintentional walks, the percentage of unintentional walks, if we keep it up at this pace, is going to be the highest, the biggest, the most walks in the history of our sport. So that's an interesting development. The other
Crazy.
thing that goes with it is as the hitters catch on, they're not swinging at as many pitches. So the rate of pitches taken has also exploded. And at this pace, we would have 10,000 more pitches thrown this year that nobody swings at. And so you tell me, is this a good thing? It's an interesting thing, but is it a good thing?
Well, it's a little bit of two steps forward, one step back because we spent all this time on these new MLB rules to speed up the game, but now we're kind of having a less aggressive game. I don't want to say slower, but less aggressive.
Yeah, the games are a few minutes longer. It's not unbearable. They used to be a lot longer. And when the games were ending at quarter to 11, as opposed to now they ended like 25 after 9. I mean, nobody's complaining about that part of it.
Not
But
me.
you're right. You are onto something because if we were going to invent baseball today, you and me, we would invent a sport where there was lots of swinging, right? It'd be like home run derby, guys swinging at every pitch. Okay.
Uh-huh,
And
uh-huh.
then the ball would go a long ways, or these great athletes would be running it down in the outfield and catching it, or these great athletes would be running around the bases because that ball hit the grass. That's what we're looking for. More walks, fewer swings, I would say is not what we're looking for. It's not what Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, the powers that be are hoping to get to. And so I think they're going to let this play out for a while. But if this continues, you tell me if you're the queen of baseball, what would you do? Would you tweak the strike zone or something else about ABS?
Well, I think you suggested a possible change in the strike zone in your piece, and I found it intriguing. When was the last time the strike zone was changed?
Well, it's this is a that's another trick question because it has not changed in the rule book, but the definition of what is a strike to a robot, to the ABS, is different than what it says in the rule book or what used to happen. Andrew Bailey, who is the pitching coach for the Red Sox, really bright guy, said to me this spring, we're actually working with three strike zones now, right? We have the human strike zone, and we have each umpire strike zone, and then we have the rulebook strike zone. And all those things are different than the ABS strike zone. And it's a learning process for everybody on how to make this work. And so, I didn't get into this, but, pitchers are learning that there are pitches now that were always strikes, and they're not strikes anymore. Like that fastball up here, it's not a strike. It's not hittable, but hitters are, realize you don't have to swing at that pitch because it's not a strike. But there are also pitches that never used to be strikes for 100 years, and now they are. Um, and so it's been fun to watch the exploration process, I guess, for 2 months. At a certain point, everybody's going to settle in and we'll know what we've got. But this would be a concern for me is the strike zone leading us to the best version of baseball? Baseball, when they were testing this in the minor leagues, they played around with the strike zone like a lot. It was wider, it was tighter, it was higher, it was smaller, it was higher at the knees, it was lower at the knees, like all this stuff. And the goal was to see if you could create some definition of the strike zone that produced more balls in play. That's what we're trying to get to, right? We're trying to reduce the strikeout rate, reduce the walk rate, get more balls on the field. Nothing that they tried actually did that. And now we're seeing in the big leagues, this doesn't do it either. So, yeah, we could say, let's fix the strike zone. All right, how do we do that? You got any answers for us?
Well, couldn't if it lopped 3 inches off the top, couldn't you just like make it 3 inches extra taller and lop the extra 3 inches off?
You mean go back to what it used to be? Go back to what it says in the rule book?
Yes.
You could.
It seems like for the bot that you have to fool the bot into adding an extra 3 inches and then hack the 3 inches off.
Yeah, that's the magic phrase, fool the bot, is the reason that the strike zone is defined this way is, if you're a baseball player, if you're a pitcher or a hitter, your whole life, you've kind of had this vision in your head of what a strike is and what it isn't. And if you actually plug the rule book strike zone into ABS, you wouldn't produce that zone because of the whole 3D, 2D thing. You don't need me to go into
Yeah.
this, but I can. And so you have to make it smaller, at least north south. But it's just tricky because um, I guess I'm going to have to do the 2D, 3D thing. Okay, so there, there used to be when human umpires were calling balls and strikes, only humans. Quaint concept now.
So cute.
If you threw a curveball and it was at the knees at the front of the plate, that human would call it a strike. The robot does not. Okay, the robot is programmed with the 2D programming to call where is the pitch when it hits the middle of the plate. So that curveball that is at the knees at the front of the plate is now too low. Okay, when it gets to the middle of the plate. And that's why you've got to fiddle with all this stuff so that, again, hitters and pitchers know what a strike is. But that's not really quite happening. And so there are a lot of ways they could go. Like, does the whole ball have to be inside the strike zone, or can it just kick the strike zone? They've played with that too. So there's a lot of stuff you could do. I don't know that any of it works, though.
It kind of surprised me that they didn't program the 3D thing into ABS. And I don't know if that's because they couldn't figure out how to do it effectively or they just decided not to.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, this was another problem because when they first started experimenting with this stuff back in the Atlantic League, um, I have family in an Atlantic League town, so I would go to some of these games just to see it and talk to people about it. And the problem with the 3D strike zone is, I just described this. Okay. That pitch, that curveball at the knees, at the front of the strike zone, where's the catcher catching it? Like an inch off the ground. And it's bizarre when you're watching a game to see the catcher catch a pitch an inch off the ground and the robot says, that's a strike.
Hmm.
Okay. And that was a huge issue. Um,
So they were, when you would go see this in the Atlantic League, they were doing the
it,
3D
it was
thing,
3D at first.
but it
And
was
then
really just unappealing to the fans. And so they
it,
ditched it.
it just was bizarre. Again, like everybody in the ballpark, pitcher, catcher, umpire, you your 6-year-old daughter is eating popcorn. None of them thought that pitch was a strike. The only entity that thought that pitch was a strike was a robot. And they were messing at that point with the robots calling every pitch.
Hmm.
They let me actually sit in the press box with that robot headphone on to listen to
Oh,
the bot call the pitches, and
I didn't know that you
that
could do that. Okay. Yeah.
well, that's how it's done. But um, it at any rate, like that, it wasn't working because it a strike zone. Would you say it's a fairly important part of baseball? Seems like it, right? So
Give me some
they,
time to think about it,
yeah,
please.
the strike zone cannot be some kind of technological invention. You know, we know what a strike zone looks like. We know what a strike has always been. You got to get as close to that as you can, but it's really hard when you start using technology. I would say most people haven't thought 10 seconds about this. Why I've been thinking about it at this level is a sign I need help.
Well, we talked about pitchers. Are they throwing more balls? Because, I mean, actually, more pitches, I should say, because the strike zone is shrunk a little bit?
Sure. I mean, if 10,000 pitches are going to be taken this year because of this zone, I don't know what percentage of those 10,000 pitches are balls, but I'm going to say, what, two-thirds of them? Most of them. And so if it's ball one instead of strike one, you're probably going to have to throw more pitches if you want to strike that dude out. And so, yeah, it's taking a toll as pitchers try to figure out what they're going to do about this.
It's a big adjustment for everybody. And we already live in this time where pitchers are throwing fewer innings than the pitchers we grew up with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, quite a few. I mean, it's like starting pitchers, which is, I think, what you're asking about, are getting thousands of fewer outs a year than they did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 100 years ago, obviously, because um, we don't let them do what starting pitchers always used to do anymore. Have you noticed that? I bet you
Oh,
have.
yeah.
And so it's another interesting issue in the sport is, okay, I understand the reasons that you don't want starting pitchers to stick around for 8, 9 innings anymore. I get it. There's definitely good, solid mathematical, scientific thinking behind it. But is it making the game better? How would Kelley Franco answer that question?
Well, I have always been a fan, actually, of the pitcher's duel. I mean, I like when
Yeah,
pitchers go in there and they stay in there. And I also find that changing the pitchers breaks up the game. It's more commercial breaks. You just kind of break up that little rhythm that you have of the game.
yeah.
But I also understand why they do it. And, I'm not the one who's throwing the pitches. And I don't want some pitcher saying to me, well, it's not your arm that's going to fall off, lady. I mean, they're right. It's not my arm that's going to fall off. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if, are these pitchers more fragile now than they were? Or is it just that managers don't want to, or front offices don't want to push their limits?
Well, we're on this crazy loop where it's some of it's obviously about trying to keep pitchers healthy. And how's that working out, by the way?
Not.
Pitchers, pitchers pitch less than they've ever pitched in the history of baseball, and they get hurt more. So
What is with
good
these
work on that
loose
front.
bodies? We keep hearing about
Well,
loose bodies in the elbow. Who named that surgery? It sounds like something from Alien.
Yeah, so it is possible that like these sports medicine departments have been taken over by aliens. I should look into that. Somebody should. It'd be a good story. I'll win the Pulitzer if I can prove this. Anyway, here's the real thinking though. Um, there's lots of data that tells us that the more a pitcher pitches, the less effective he is. And I once heard Bill James explain it this way. Say you were going to run a marathon. That's 26 miles. How do you think you would run it faster? If one guy just ran all 26 miles, or you had a bunch of sprinters, and every 100 yards or 200 yards, you handed your baton off to the next sprinter, and they could sprint all 26 miles. Which would be like the faster time that you could roll up? Obviously, the more sprinters who run the race, the faster the times are. And that's what we're looking at in baseball, especially as pitchers are trained to throw every pitch as hard as they can at max effort. Jacob Mizorowski out there throwing 50 pitches at 100 miles an hour, and he doesn't care if at some point he gets tired and they take him out. It's not how he was trained, and it's not what he's asked to do. But here is the observation that I try to make from time to time is, okay, this is great baseball strategy, but the things that make great baseball strategy don't always make great entertainment strategy because you and I are going to design baseball. Again, we're going to be empowered to do that. And what do we want? We want Jacob Mizorowski and Christopher Sanchez to take the ball and never give it up, right? We want Paul Skeens and Zach Wheeler to be out there all night long, whether that's 110 pitches or 150 pitches. We don't care. We're just looking at it as an entertainment product, right? So look at the NBA. The NBA is star driven. And okay, what drives the entertainment value of the NBA? It's those stars doing their thing. Why? Because Steph Curry and LeBron and SGA, they have the ball in their hands. What? 120 times a night, 150 times a night. Everything revolves around them holding the ball and then what they do with it. That's the ideal version of baseball to me. But it's not the way we're playing it now. And it's obviously not the way that we're heading. I mean, the average starting pitcher now gets 15 outs a game. It's the fewest in the history of baseball. I ask you again, is that what we want? I think we just answered that question.
Cy Young pitched 749 complete games. Now, I don't know if that's a question or if now we should just remain silent for the rest of the podcast out of respect.
So you don't think anybody's going to do that again?
No.
No, no is the right answer. Yeah, just different universe, different, so different. It's crazy. As somebody like, I do some research. It's not breaking news if you've read me, but I like to research when something crazy happens. When's the last time it happened? All right.
Oh,
So
yes, you do. You're weird and wild.
I love that stuff. It's another thing that my mom always said is you should write a book and call it I Never Saw That Before. And I never wrote the book, but I kind of write it every week.
Yeah.
So this past week, there was a game. Let me think about this. The Orioles fell behind in the 11th, 12th, and 13th innings
Yeah, against the Rays.
against the Rays,
Yeah.
and they won.
Yeah.
They won
I
this
couldn't
game. So I
believe
thought,
it.
when's the last time this happened? Okay, so we found some game. God, I can't remember off the top of my head when it was. Sorry, it's like 90 years ago. So I went and looked at the box score because that's always fun, the names you find. And what did I learn? That the pitcher who gave up the winning runs in the 13th inning was the starting pitcher. So
Oh,
he had
my
to leave
God.
the 11th, 12th, and 13th,
Yeah.
gave it up, and they never took him out because that
Crazy.
was baseball then, not now.
So I'm going to put you in the time machine for a little bit because I want to talk about managers. And so speaking of research, Jayson Stark Google stalked you, and in 2019 you had this article that was so prescient that it's actually even more applicable today than it was then. And it was an article about managers, and in that article you referred to something called the middle manager. Do you remember this piece?
Oh, I remember it so well. And I
Tell me about
remember,
the middle. Tell our viewers
okay,
about
so
the
I
middle
remember
manager.
the quote that produced that. Um, I was sitting in the dugout of a team I'm not going to name with a general manager or president of baseball ops, or whatever his title was, that I'm not going to name. And we were talking about the game the night before. And the team they were playing had done what we were just talking about and pulled its starting pitcher. Um, I want to say like one out into the sixth inning, and he was pitching great.
Oh.
And this guy says to me, here's the thing. Our guy, meaning his manager, is a manager. Their guy is a middle manager. What does that mean? It means he's following instructions drawn up for him by the people he works for, by the front office that tries to script the game before the game ever gets played. And I don't know that all 30 teams are doing this for all 30 managers now. But if it's not 30, it's really close to 30. Um, and that manager that GM was talking about is no longer a manager. Okay.
The middle
And
manager or the manager?
the general manager,
The middle
well, I'm not going to talk
manager
about
no
him.
longer has a job.
I'm not going
The
to
middle
identify the
manager.
general manager, but
No, no, no. I know.
the field manager, the manager who walks around the dugout, leans against the top step, he is no longer a manager in Major League Baseball
Right.
because front offices don't want that manager anymore who has the power that managers used to have, where it was his kingdom, his fiefdom. Get the heck out of here. I'm going to run this game the way I want to run this game. That really barely exists anymore. And we find ourselves debating this conversation. Good thing, bad thing. Good for the game, bad for the game. And I don't think there's a clear answer on this one because, like, I love information, Kelley, and I feel like all information is good information. And so if you're managing a Major League Baseball team and you're not interested in the information that your front office can provide you, you should not have that job. You know, the best managers, the best front offices, the best teams, they absorb all kinds of information and know how to use it and communicate it. So this is not an anti-information diatribe, but we talked about how starting pitchers were the biggest stars in the game. You know who else were really big stars in the game? Managers, right? Hey, like the larger than life manager, Tony La Russa and Earl Weaver and
Bobby
Tommy Lasorda.
Cox. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, you can get way more recent than that. Dusty Baker. Um, those guys were big stars. And if I remember right, there's a quote in that column that you just asked me about, in which somebody working in a pretty data-driven front office said to me, the problem with those kinds of managers is it's really hard to go into the office of Dusty Baker or Buck Showalter and say, this is how we'd like to see the game managed tonight. You remember that quote?
Yes.
I never forgotten that quote. I really think that this sums up how modern front offices look at their manager. Um, it's great to have a Terry Francona in your dugout who has won 2,000 games. And if the script that the front office wrote up for how the game should go and how long the starter should pitch and who should pitch to which pocket of the lineup, or whatever's part of the script. When it goes off the rails and you have to rip up your script, it's really helpful to have a great manager who has managed a lot of games, played a lot of games, and knows instinctively what to do next. But I mean, you're seeing some really young and inexperienced managers these days, and if we were to like bring Buck Showalter in here right now, what would he say? He'd say, "What are you going to do when the game goes off the script, buddy?" That sort
Yeah.
of thing. And here's
So,
the other issue. Um, Joe Madden, like Joe Madden, fan of
oh
Joe
yeah,
Madden? Yeah,
old
me too,
school.
right?
Yeah.
So when Joe Madden got hired to manage the Rays, what was his reputation then? He was the cool, space age, outside the box thinking, data driven manager doing all these wacky things. That was Joe Madden, how it started. How did it end? It ended with Joe getting fired by the Angels. And then he came on our podcast on Starkville and he laid it out how the whole analytics thing on his team had gotten out of control. And there were analytics dudes from the front office who were in the clubhouse with lockers, dressing and showering with the players and feeding them all kinds of stuff and telling Joe, here's what we're going to do tonight. And like Joe went on such an incredible rant about it that, people were telling me afterwards, like they were driving to an appointment and they wound up being late because they were sitting in their car listening. And I had people from front offices saying, I can't believe he would say that out loud. He's rendering himself unemployable. And so, you know what Joe would say to that? If that's what you think, I don't want to be employed by you anyway. I had dinner
Yeah.
with him in spring training and we had that same conversation. Yet again, he's not managing now. He hasn't had a job interview since since he said that stuff. And the reason he doesn't care is those people who think he's radioactive and shouldn't manage a team are people he would not work for. And so it just tells you how far we've come in not that long a period of time.
Jayson Stark, what does baseball look like in 10 years?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question because have you heard there might be a work stoppage?
Oh
You
my
know,
God.
let's
We're going
hope
to have to
not.
get lives.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do.
No.
But life on the other side of whatever that brings us, whatever the next labor deal looks like, is going to have a lot to do with how we're going to answer that question. I do know that like once we get past that, baseball is going to expand. There'll be more geographic alignment. I don't know if the American League and National League are going to go away. They could, possible. Okay. So that's one thing to look for. I think once we've gotten past the labor war or whatever it turns out to be, it opens the door for lots more rule changes and fun stuff that could maybe attack one of the things we were talking about. Like what would be a fun idea to incentivize teams to keep their starting pitchers in the game? I've written a lot and even named an idea called the double hook,
I
where
love the double hook.
do you? Yeah,
Tell our
yeah, I came
viewers
up
what
with
the
the name
double
of
hook
that.
is.
And the double hook is you want to take your starting pitcher out? Okay. Then you got to take your DH out of the game too.
Yep.
And that's like there are a lot of issues with that. So you'd probably see a modified version of it if it ever happens. But that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. You can see a lot of innovation because from an entertainment standpoint, that's what the sport needs more of. They need the starting pitcher to hang in the game longer. And if they do, they can't throw. I mean, look, Jacob Mizorowski can throw 50 pitches at 103. He, he can't throw 150. So it means starting pitchers now have to learn how to dial it back. There's a lot of stuff that can flow from some rule change or innovation that keeps the starting pitcher in the game longer. So that's the kind of thing that could happen. Like my next frontier is you want a more entertaining sport, you got to do something about the strikeout rate. Got to. Um, the best version of baseball, this goes back to how we started, is it'd be kind of like home run derby where these dudes are swinging at every pitch and they actually hit the ball. We're never going back to that. Um, but there needs to be some innovation that creates more balls in play. And they're great minds trying to think up this stuff. I think you'll see some experiments again over the next 10 years.
Okay, so the truth is, I wish that we could talk for like 2 hours, but you are honestly one of the most important men in America. And if our viewers only knew the hula hoops that I had to jump through, or whatever you jump through, to get you on the show. So I am not going to keep Jayson Stark overtime. I'm not going to do that. But I do have to ask you,
Yeah.
our closer, which is Jayson Stark. Our other love besides baseball here is food, and we like to talk about food. And so our closer question is what we like to eat while we're watching the ball game. It can be while you're at the ballpark, Jayson, or while you're home alone on the couch with nobody bothering you. But Jayson Stark, what is good to eat while watching the ball game?
I'm a big fan of eating ice cream. Like all the time, but especially watching baseball. Kelley, have you ever heard of the legendary Frankie Two Scoops?
No.
Ask our mutual friend John Morris sometime about
Oh,
food. So
okay. Yeah, I will.
Frank is Frank is a legend. He has been working in the media dining room at two different Phillies ballparks now for something like 30 years. And his one job is scoop ice cream for people like me. And he's a very entertaining person who's been written about, profiled a lot, like name dropped on many broadcasts from Philadelphia. And so if I'm in the press box at Citizens Bank Park, there's a good chance I'll be eating ice cream. It's so bad that I don't even have to line up anymore to ask Frank for some ice cream. He just sees me and he brings it to me. Don't tell my wife, okay? Can she hear this?
No, the sound waves don't reach her. It's a
Okay,
magical
good,
thing we do. Yeah.
good. But
What flavors?
okay, my favorite flavor that they dish out in the press box is moose tracks. You familiar with moose
Oh, yeah,
tracks?
yeah. I've heard that before. What has it got
Yeah, it's
folded
kind of
in?
like a vanilla fudgy sort of thing, but it's
Uh-huh.
got like big chocolate chunks in it. It's got little peanut butter cup thing going on. It's got the
Yeah, that's
fudge
good stuff.
stripes. So it's vanilla with all this chocolatey stuff. It's amazing. Oh my God. It should be illegal.
Oh, I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, you should. So that's what I would eat in the press box. If I'm out in the stands, I don't sit in the stands enough. I'd find something. Yeah, I'd find a flavor. When I'm home, could be all kinds of stuff. We've got a place near us called an ice house,
Okay.
and they serve these things where it's half ice cream and half Italian ice.
Okay.
It's another thing that it's just dangerous. And
Wow,
so like
you're a more is more guy, is what I'm getting.
yeah. When it comes to dessert, I would say that's true.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that was is great because I mean, you're not just doing the vanilla, you're folding in the peanut butter and the chocolate chunks, and then it's not just ice cream. You're going to fold in some Italian ice. I mean, just fold it all in and give you a spoon, and you're good.
That's right. Exactly.
I like
My
it.
my column's like that too. There's just a lot of junk in there. Who knows why it's there, but it's fun. Theoretically, it's fun.
It is a great column, and I am so grateful for your time here today, Jayson. Thank you so much for joining us on the Three Inning Fan Show.
Kelley, I really enjoyed it. It's a shock to me that I'm one of the most important people in the world. Don't tell that to anybody who knows me because they would laugh at you, but we'll go with that on this show. Thank you so much. Enjoyed it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jayson Stark, writer for The Athletic, baseball legend, host of Starkville. Definitely tune in to him. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll be back next week. Bye bye.